Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Talks. Now, Tuesday Talks is all about getting to know an individual and finding out what makes them tick, what do they care about, how their career reflects that, and what motivates them to keep going. Now, today's guest is called Silkina. Now, Silkina is going to be sharing her journey with EFT, finding her way back after a heartbreak, and also sharing about the importance of knowing yourself and connecting to your intuition. So let me invite Silkina on. Okay. Okay, I see you there. Let me just amazing. You should have the invite now. Okay. Hi, Silkina. How are you doing?
Hello, good. How are you?
I am amazing. Thank you very much for taking the time out to join Tuesday Talks and sharing your journey.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
That's good. That's good. Amazing. Thank you. I've done a short introduction for you already, but you're the best person to expand onto that. So if you just let us know, the audience who don't know you, who you are, what you do, and the biggest question that kicks off this conversation also is, why do you do it, Silkina? That's as well. It's over to you.
I do a lot of things, so why do I do what? I'm kidding.
So,
Um,
whichever you do, yeah.
okay, so I didn't get to hear your intro, but I'm just gonna reintroduce myself for people who are not familiar with me and my page and what I do. So my name is Silkina, and I'm an EFT tapping practitioner, which we are going to talk a lot about today. How I found EFT tapping, how it has changed my life, and how it really allowed me to come back to myself after a period of challenge and difficulties. So I am a journalist. That's what I do, which is why before we started this live, I was telling you that I'm usually on the other side of this. I'm usually the one doing the interview. So I hope that I'm a good interviewee. But I mean, ultimately, I'm telling my story, so I should do a good job. But yeah, so do you want me to start telling just like how I found EFT tapping?
Yeah, no, if we are obviously going to talk about your journey with EFT and finding your way back after a heartbreak, which I've also mentioned in the
Hmm.
intro. So yeah, so
Yeah.
take us through that, and we're also talking about knowing yourself and connecting to your intuition, which kind of we both practice because we both follow our intuitions as well. So it'd be great to expand on that as well. So yeah, so take it away, and why do you do EFT as well? So that would be something,
Hmm.
honing into your whys as to why that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, where do I begin? My story. Okay, so I found EFT tapping in 2019. At the time, I was doing it very irregularly, so I would say once a month. And I was always a fan of it because the thing with EFT tapping, also for people who don't know EFT tapping, it is basically emotional freedom techniques. It's a form of somatic healing. And the reason why it's so powerful is because it takes into consideration everything like mind, body, soul. And a mini demonstration of EFT tapping is basically these are the meridian points, and the meridian points are responsible for healthy and proper flow of your energy system. So in EFT, we believe that if you're feeling any sort of negative emotions, it's usually because there's a disruption in the body's energy system. So in order to kind of get that energy moving fast and like flowing properly again, you just tap on like these points, and there's more than those points. So I first found EFT tapping, as I said, in 2019. I was doing it about once a month. And at the time, I was just doing it for fun. I was like, okay, you know, I can really feel my energy clearing, or I can really feel that that I'm feeling energized very quickly. And that's why a lot of people love EFTs, because you can feel the shifts really fast. And then fast forward to 3 years after 2019, 2022, last year, which was probably I say that it was the year that I was a caterpillar becoming a butterfly. So in that in-between phase where I know a lot of people, if you're in that phase, it can get really uncomfortable because it's essentially your winter phase, right? Like you're basically just being called to be by yourself, to reflect, to know who you are. And sometimes that's just not comfortable. Like it's not easy to take responsibility for your own well-being and for yourself, because it's so much easier to blame other people. But last year, I was sort of called to kind of, you know, understand my own patterns and understand a lot of these subconscious beliefs that I was just unaware was running my life. So last year, I went through 3 people in my family passed away. And I don't know why I smiled at that, because it really was not funny, but you know. And then I went through a breakup. So really, really heavy grief period, definitely, because that's like basically everything happening at once. And when it comes to heartbreak as well, like that is a form of grief, right? That we don't really talk about. And I also believe that that's part of the reason why some people inherit a lot of like repressed trauma, is because when they go through stuff like heartbreak, they don't really process a lot of the emotions, and they just kind of let time do all the healing. But the truth is, time does not heal. Time just passes, right? So if the only way to heal is to actually take responsibility for your own healing. So that's kind of what I did last year, and realized that when I broke up with that partner, that I actually took a lot of the patterns and the emotions that I had from my previous relationship. So it was interesting that I broke up with my partner last year, but in a way I was sort of healing from a breakup that I had like 5 years before that, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I was like, okay, clearly I just didn't, you know, give myself the time to actually understand like what was going on when I separated from my partner like 5 years ago, you know. So that was, as you can imagine, not comfortable at all, because anytime that you have to confront yourself, and anytime that you have to confront your own, you know, quote unquote demons, I don't think it's ever easy, because like I said earlier, it's always just so much easier to believe that other people is the cause of your suffering and that you're not the cause of your suffering. But now that I'm on the other end of it, because, you know, this happened like almost 1 year ago, I would say that anyone who's still in that dark period, that, you know, like I look back at that period and I'm like, it was such an important lesson for me. And now that I'm on this side, I wish that I could go back to that version of me and say that, you know, everything's going to be okay. Just stay with the lesson, stay with the emotions, and just know that ultimately this is going to be for your own growth, you know? So now, even in this moment, anytime I feel uncomfortable, or I feel like if I'm trying to manifest something and I want it to come really quickly, I'm like, you know what? This moment will never come again, right? Like I can feel like just a tiny little nudge from my future self that's like, look, you'll never be in this moment in time ever again. So wherever you are, like, come back to the present and really just experience whatever that you're experiencing and feel every emotion that is coming up, right? Because ultimately everything that comes up is an opportunity for healing, right? It's an opportunity for you to release. Like, there's no other way. Like, the only way to heal is to just go through it, you know?
I really love that as well. And you know, the whole journey is an amazing journey in terms of you know, you are already doing EFT, but you know, irregularly, just not paying attention to it. It was something, you know, just that everybody has one of these things they love to do, but they don't do it consistently. And the consistency, that's what I also hear in this conversation is consistency is also the key
Oh my
of
God.
making
Yeah.
sure that it works, right? So that
Yeah.
it's happening for it to take effect. If you do it now and then, you just get the effect of now and then, right? So I love I like to simplify things very much, you know. So when you were mentioning this and you talked about emotions as well. So,
Yeah.
you know, the emotions come and so I was thinking of waves when you're at the beach, you know, when the waves are coming to you and they're going back, but they are consistent waves, right? They come to you every time. They don't just
Yeah.
stop and then decide to come from the left side or decide to come from the right side or just wait for
Yeah.
another 5 minutes before another one comes. They are consistent, right? Maybe there's a little bit of a delay in each other depending on the wind trajectory and all that stuff. But they are consistent coming. If you are standing at the beach in that water, the waves are going to be hitting you, right? So, and what you do with it, you come to the present, which is now you're in the wave and getting yourself
Yeah.
acknowledge, okay, what do I do now? How do I maneuver myself or balance myself so that I don't fall over or get dragged by the wave back in, right? So that's the balance. And when it comes to ourselves, what I'm also hearing and picking up with is we don't do that when it comes to ourselves. When the
No.
emotions are coming and going, because that's what they are. They're just like waves. They come to you and then they do go away, but we need to allow them to come to you so that they can go away and acknowledge them and say, okay, I see you, I acknowledge you. Let's see what we can do so that you go away, but go away as is done. And when the next wave
Yeah.
comes, it'll be a different wave, right? It's always a different wave. It's not the same wave that comes back to you. It's a different wave.
Absolutely. Oh, that is such a good analogy because I also see it like a spiral. So it's like, of course, we will come back to, you know, similar moments in our lives, but we'll never feel the same thing that we felt at that time. So, like, the intensity will probably never be that intense ever again, you know? So, and I think the reason why EFT works so well for me is because, you know, I mean, a lot of people probably could resonate with this. When I was 17 years old, I watched the movie The Secret for the first time. And I think, you know, a lot of people that watched that movie had a similar lesson that they took from it, which is that you have to think positive, right? So I kind of like lived my life that way until I realized last year when I was, you know, in the depths of my darkness after I broke up, because a lot of my wounds, like inner child wounds, were coming up, like a lot of abandonment wounds, a lot of these feelings of, you know, just feeling very left alone and rejected, abandoned. And at first I didn't know what to do with it. And so I think why EFT helped so much is because you accept yourself in that moment in time. So there's a saying in EFT, which is, I deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself. So I think when you say that while tapping on these points, you just release all resistance, you know, like you're not pretending to be okay. You're not trying to quickly shift out of those uncomfortable emotions. You're actually just sitting with it and you're reminding yourself, your body and your nervous system that, you know, whatever I'm going through right now, it's okay. I'm okay. I accept myself. I love myself and I forgive myself for being in this position. You know, if there's some type of responsibility that I have to take for being here, for letting my unconscious beliefs run my life for so long, like for me, that was a big part, you know, where I had to really look at all of my beliefs and, you know, understand that I can choose to not believe these things anymore, you know, that we have the power to just choose any belief that we think are more aligned with our future self, you know, or like the person that we desire to be.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that, and it's an amazing journey in terms of, you know, using EFT to move forward and acknowledging. Now, for a lot of people who've not familiar with EFT, and I'm hearing this for the first time, is there is there something that you can show on this podcast,
Yeah.
if it's possible, or for them to take away, so that a little exercise, for example, that can relate to most common scenario that you come across with your clients and so.
Yes. So I would say probably the most common. Okay, let's I can give you an example of what a tapping round for anxiety would look like. This is very general because obviously if we were in an EFT session, I would ask you like what is the cause of the anxiety, but
Of course.
just for a general round, yeah, so I'll just take you through the tapping round. So usually we start on the side of the hand. So this is basically where we tune in to the problem. So that's why in EFT, it's really important that when somebody's sitting in front of me, I actually want them to feel whatever negative emotions that they're trying not to feel. I want them to kind of feel it intensely, because the whole purpose of it is we want our body to completely feel it so we can neutralize that emotion. So it doesn't mean that, you know, I completely wipe out memories or I forget what it feels like to be rejected or like abandoned. It's not that. It's just that you neutralize the memories that is attached to those emotions. So now I look back at my breakup, instead of, you know, hating my former partner and, you know, like wanting to punch him in the face, I'm just like, oh, you know what? Thank you so much for that lesson. And I don't have that same intensity. So that's kind of the whole purpose of EFT. Like, I don't want people to think that, you know, you're gonna completely erase memories from your childhood or whatever. It's not that. You just neutralize your emotions that is attached to those memories. Okay, so this is what a tapping round for anxiety would look like. I'll just give you really quick one. So you would probably start at the side of the hand here, and you would say, even though I'm feeling this anxiety, I deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself. And then you would want to kind of just scan your body to check where you feel this anxiety. So if you're feeling it in your stomach, you could probably say, even though I'm feeling this anxiety at the pit of my stomach, I deeply and completely accept that it's there. And then ideally, I would like you to maybe give a texture or a color or a shape to this anxiety. And you could probably say, even though I'm feeling this anxiety, it's dark and gray and it feels sticky at the pit of my stomach, I deeply and completely love, accept, and forgive myself. And so by naming what you're feeling, the texture, the shape, ideally you should already sort of have that sensation in your body, because tapping is very much like a body-based healing. We want to make sure that you're not just saying the words, but you're feeling it, right? Because that feeling is what we want to release and neutralize. So usually when you're on the side of the hand, you say it 3 times. I mean, there's really no rules. This is just what clinical EFT is, which is what they have studied for like decades. And then you would kind of go to the tapping points, and you would just talk about how you're feeling, like this anxiety in the pit of my stomach, this anxiety that's dark and gray, this anxiety feels sticky at the pit of my stomach. So you would go right here, and then you have your underarm and then the top of the head. So that's sort of one round. And then you take a pause after the round and you just check in, because usually the act of tapping on the meridian points itself like calms you down. Like I've had people where, you know, we haven't even started. I'm just like, hey, these are the tapping points. And the minute they tap, they like already start crying. And I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense, because that means that there's so much pent up emotions in your body. Like it wants to be released, but we haven't really given it an opportunity to be released in that way, you know? So even tapping on these meridian points, it's kind of like, it's like an electricity shock in your body, because they also basically say that tapping is acupuncture without the needles, because the points are very similar to acupuncture points. So it's very much rooted in like traditional Chinese energy medicine. So yeah, I hope I explained that clearly.
No, you did, and thank you very much for taking us through that little exercise as well. So, and I hope people who are watching this live with us now on Instagram are able to replicate some of it if they need to be, or reach out to you definitely to actually understand and get a personalized version of it, as because everybody is different, and if you're just trying to work with a general medicine, for example, it doesn't always work because each person is different, right? So you might get an effect of it, but not a solution out of it. So no, thank you very much for taking this through. So anybody who's also listening to this as a podcast version, and obviously not is able to see how Silkina did this, this episode is also left on my Instagram page and your Instagram page. It will be there until obviously Instagram dissolves, is there forever. So if you wanted to watch this in person, how it was, pop into our Instagram pages and it will be there for you. So a question I wanted to also ask, obviously, so you had this pivotal moment of overcoming emotions with the EFT, and acknowledging everything. So when you were going through all this, I'm sure there was lots of disruptions. So did you had a routine or ritual that got disrupted, or did you create new rituals or routines that people like to call them? What are they? I mean, how does your morning look like, and what do you do to close your night as well?
Yeah. So when I went through that dark period last year, I made a commitment to myself that I was going to tap. So at first I made it like a fun challenge, right? I was like, I'm going to tap every single day for 30 days and I'll see what happens. If nothing happens, then, I didn't lose anything. What I gained is that I tapped like every day for 30 days. But I was really surprised, because I think by like day 11, I was already starting to neutralize so much heavy emotions that I was like, there's just no way, because 11 days ago I was a different person and I was getting triggered by a lot of the same things that I've been triggered by for 30 years of my life. And suddenly with EFT tapping, I was able to neutralize things so quickly. So I made a commitment last year that I would tap and I would meditate every single day. And I've actually stayed true to that commitment. So I would say that maybe in the past year, I have not meditated or tapped like collectively about a week. So I've stayed very, very consistent. And I completely agree. You mentioned this earlier about how you just have to do it. You just have to do it every single day. Okay, maybe not every single day, right? But majority of your time you have to do it. Because I was just listening to this podcast interview. I can't even remember who it is anymore, but they were basically talking about, like the power of 2%. So it's like you just do something every single day and eventually, you know, after whatever, 6 months or 1 year, like all of the work that you've done is going to compound, and it creates like certain momentum, right? And also, one of the books that I read that I still haven't finished, but you know, I guess I got wisdom out of it, like enough wisdom, is Atomic Habits. So when I read that book halfway through, I basically told myself, okay, I don't have to overwhelm myself with, you know, doing 50 things in the morning and like 10 things at night. I can just focus on one or two things, and then I can habit stack. So I started with tapping every day, and it doesn't even have to take long. If you go on my page, I have like 90 seconds tapping. Literally, I've had people telling me in 90 seconds they have shifted their energy. So imagine like what
Wow.
90 minutes of tapping can do. Yeah. So just give yourself that time, you know. So I started with like just 5 minutes of tapping every day, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna add like another 5 minutes of meditation, and then I'll add like another 5 minutes of just moving my body. Behind me there's like a treadmill in my room, literally, because I was like, if it's not in my room, I'm not gonna do it, you know, like it has to be here. So that's also like another big tip, is to just kind of surround your environment, or like make sure that your environment like helps make it easier for you to do that thing. So I would say that from last year up until now, I tap every day, I meditate every day, and I move my body in some form every single day. And that's also really good just for overall healthy energy flow, because when you're just sitting down all day, like the energy just kind of, you know, is like stuck.
Yeah.
So it's better. And I mean, if you don't like, you know, going to the gym or anything, you can dance, you know, just like put a 3 minute song on and just move, like whatever it is, just move your body. But for me, what really, really changed like me and like my identity was just, I just kept going, you know, like I just kept going and I kept doing it. And when you're trying to change yourself that way, when you're trying to, you know, break yourself away from a lot of these bad habits, there's always going to be that voice in your head that says, oh, okay, you know, it's been a month, or it's been 2 months and it's not working, or it's been 3 months and it's not working. And it's like, it's just important to be aware that that inner voice is just your brain trying to keep you where you are, right? Because our brains do not like change. Our brains love things that are familiar, you know. So whenever I would have that little voice in my head, I just had to remind myself that, you know, this is just the part of me that does not know what is on the other side of this, you know. But there is another part of me, my soul, that can see that bigger picture. And you, like when you tap into that voice in your heart, other than the voice in your head, you're able to kind of feel that bigger picture, you know, like, okay, maybe this is something that's uncomfortable right now, but it's just 2 minutes, or it's just 5 minutes. If you can't do a 10-minute meditation, don't force yourself. Just do it for like 4 minutes just to begin with, you know?
And I really love that, you know, the way you expanded onto it as well. And I took away consistency again is the key there, right? So you have to obviously make sure that you are doing it. If it's every day, you make sure you do it every day. If it needs to be done every day, if it's every other day, you make sure it is done every other day. Sometimes people get too stuck on in terms of, oh, I need to do it, wake up and I have to do this. And because you are forcing yourself, it's not going to happen because you're forcing it, right? And this is what I'm taking away as well, is to naturally allow it to happen. But obviously you have to encourage yourself that you want to be doing it. You have to hold yourself accountable, because you need that change to happen. And I love that you also put there, you know, that you were allow the time for the effects to take place. Don't fall into the trap of, oh, it's been 3 months and I've been doing it, it's not working. It's the results, I don't see the results. Maybe in that instance, I usually say is, you know, maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board, right? So you have a look at how consistent actually were you for it to take effect? It's been
Yeah.
3 months, but were you consistent enough to do it enough for it to take that result in 3 months? For 3 months result, you might have to do it every day, right? If you're doing it
Yeah.
once a week, twice a week, it will take longer,
No.
right? So the less you do
Yeah.
it, the longer it will take. The more you do it, the quicker results you will get. You know, it turns out to be a numbers game at the end as well,
Yeah.
in some way,
Yeah.
right? So, unfortunately, that's how it is, right? So, and I look at it in terms of the more, if some people who learn to ride bicycles and some who not, you know, the more you fall off the bike, the quicker you actually learn to ride the bike, right? So if you have stabilizers
Yeah.
on your bicycle, you know, the supporting wheels, and you have that for a long time, you will always be on that for a long time because you haven't learned to balance yourself, because you haven't fallen yet. Once you start falling, and you have often, the quicker you will know how to balance yourself, because you're trying to save yourself from that fall. And I love that. That's what you just reminded me
Absolutely.
of it. So taking us through, so how do you wrap up your evening? So, you know, Pip, you know, bringing it all to a close, or some people also
Yeah.
like to, whilst they're closing, prepare for the next day. So are you one of those who prepares for the next day at the same time whilst closing the same day?
No, my mind is gonna be way too active for that. So no. Well, like before I go to bed, I like to read, but I make sure that I don't read nonfiction. I'm trying not to, because like sometimes when there's a really good nonfiction book, like I can get into that analytical part of my brain, and then it's just hard to like switch off. Because a lot of the times when I'm reading self-help, I want to write things down, you know, like I want to highlight things, I want to write things down. So I make sure that I read either like a poetry book or like a good fiction book. And I like to listen to some type of subliminal audio while I'm sleeping. So this is also a very easy way to just sort of, you know, rewire a lot of those beliefs, but make sure that you find somebody that you can trust. I don't usually find them on YouTube. I know that YouTube there's a lot, but I just want to make sure, because they're messages that go straight to your subconscious mind, that I want to make sure that I trust the person that has created this. So I usually purchase subliminals from people that are actually accredited to kind of create these things. Yeah, because you don't want to like mess with your subconscious mind. And then what else do? I try not to go on TikTok, but you know, nobody's perfect.
I was gonna say, yeah, the TikTok
Yeah.
addiction is real.
The scroll hole.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. 2 second scrolls every time. But yeah, no,
Seriously.
I love that you touched upon the also listening to those subliminal you know, music, I like to say, you know. But I
Yeah.
love that you pointed out not to
Frequency.
just listen to any, yeah, frequencies. That's it. Frequencies. That's the word I was looking for. And just not to listen to anybody,
Yeah.
but make sure they are good accredited people, or a person who might be giving you subliminal messages. Come back to my YouTube channel tomorrow again.
Yes. Follow me on TikTok. And you're like, why am I scrolling on this person's TikTok?
Yeah. And buy my merch. Buy my merch. So,
for real, yeah. Like
yeah,
sign up for
exactly.
my online course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I love
Yeah.
that. So yeah, always make sure that you are obviously doing things correct, because it's a
Yeah.
vast sea of so many things, you know. And not everybody is wrong, but
Everything
you
exists.
yeah, exactly. You just don't want to
Yeah.
fall into a trap. It's easily
Yeah.
done when you're looking for something and you are not actually aware of what's right or wrong, and
Yeah.
you're just looking for it, right? So that's a
Yeah.
great point there as well. So that's an amazing journey that you shared, and your habit of habit stacking, which is quite a lot of people bring on onto these Tuesday talks, the
Wow.
habit of habit stacking as well. So
Okay.
the Atomic Habits is one of the books which is quite read by quite a lot, so
Yeah.
it comes up quite often, and that's the one book I haven't read yet.
Well, I haven't finished it, so
there you go.
it's
I
fine.
think because I've heard it I've heard so many people talk about it, so different little bits that I
That
feel
you
like
know
I've read
it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
I'm like,
You're like,
feel
I'm
like,
basically the author.
yeah, there you go. There you go. See, so I can just I can literally talk about it without even reading it now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about knowing yourself and then
Mm-hmm.
connecting to your intuition, which I know is quite important to you as well.
Yeah.
So take us through that part now as well. So how can one know themselves and trust their intuition? I mean, a lot of time. No, I'm talking about myself personally here. A lot of
Yeah.
time, I when I hear people saying, "Oh, my gut says that," but I never actually understood that part anyway because
Yeah.
maybe I just didn't name it my gut. I was always thinking of an intuition, and I never felt it in the gut area as well. So,
Yeah.
it was always in the middle of the chest. That's where I would feel that this, if whatever that calling is, whatever I need to do or I don't need to do, or okay, I need to stop. So hence I never said, okay, it's a gut feeling. But a lot of people say the gut feeling is also intuition. I wanted to ask that question.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think, yes, so what you shared is really important because everyone feels their intuition differently in their
Mm,
body, right? But again, intuition is not in your mind. It's how you're feeling. So that's why like when I say it's important to know yourself, that's why it's important to take time for yourself every single day because I realized when I did my healing last year, like I realized that a lot of the beliefs and the opinions and the thoughts that was on loop in my head it was not really me. It was just like thoughts and things that I heard other people tell me ever since I was a young girl, you know? So part of knowing myself, so I would say the first step for this that's really, really important is journaling. My dad is watching this. Journaling is really, really important because that was the only way that I was able to really tap into who I am authentically and to kind of just switch off that chatter and that noise in my head. Because again, your intuition is not like that rude, sassy person that's in your head that tells you this is not perfect yet, you're not good enough, all that stuff. Your intuition is very subtle. And so last year, when I really seriously got into tapping, um, it wasn't a loud voice, which is why it can be really easy to kind of skip over it
mm,
because if you don't understand how to connect back to your body, and for me that happens when I'm just taking breaths, right? Like the easiest way is to just sit and take deep breaths and just feel the sensations in your body, and you will never 100% switch off your thoughts. Like we're
yeah,
human. Like I think that's a
exactly,
myth. I
definitely.
I, I don't understand that. Yeah, when they're like quiet your mind, I'm like, yeah, how? Like my mind is always going to keep going. So it's just about moving that energy from your head to your body so you know exactly how you're feeling in that moment. Again, like I emphasize so much on feeling because like everything just comes back to how you're feeling, right? And the most important thing for me, at least last year when I was going through this, is like, I just want to feel good. But
Mm,
when I'm in that moment where I'm not feeling good, I'm not going to beat myself up over it. And that's why EFT has been so helpful for me because it has allowed me to not beat myself up over it. And actually, when you start to accept yourself and love yourself and forgive yourself, like you don't even have to try to be positive because you've sort of shed those layers anyway.
mm,
So all the positivity just naturally come to you. So I realized that a lot of the habits I have now that I had to force myself to do last year, I'm like, oh, I actually like now I'm doing it seamlessly and naturally because I just allowed myself to feel that resistance for a little bit, and then I was able to just step out of that resistance because even that inner critic and that inner voice once or I guess I should say deserves love, compassion, and kindness as well because they are a part of you,
mm,
right? When you start to say, I don't want to feel sad or I don't want to feel angry, you're separating you from you, if that makes sense. So that shadow part, the part that, you know, that voice that judges you, the voice that tells you that you're not good enough, like the reason why it gets louder and louder is because you're not giving it any attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you just start to kind of hear that voice and actually tell that inner part of you, like, I understand why you're here. It's okay. Like, it's okay. I got you. Because a lot of the times it is your wounded inner child. And so just sort of holding that part of you and saying, it's okay. Like, it's okay. You are a part of me. I understand why you would be scared in this situation. I understand why you would feel this way in this situation. And it's okay. Like, I love I love you, I accept you, and I forgive you for feeling this way, but we don't need this part of us to take us to where we need to be. So when you start to accept all parts of you, that creates zero conflict in your body, because your body just naturally relaxes, because your body's like, oh, okay, cool. So I'm allowed to be like, I'm allowed to have these thoughts. Like, it's okay, you know, I'm human. Like, this is just as your heart pumps oxygen, your brain creates thoughts, you know? So it's like, you don't have to be those thoughts. You just have to be aware, like, what are the thoughts that are on loop? And at the end of the day, when you're trying to change your beliefs, it's like, beliefs are basically thoughts that you think over and over and over again. So if you want to change your beliefs, you just have to be aware of what thoughts are you thinking over and over and over again. Yes. And for me, how I was able to connect to my intuition and my soul is through journaling. And actually, what I've been trying is non-dominant hand journaling to connect with my inner child, which I think is very interesting, because again, when you're writing with your dominant hand, it's autopilot, right? So you're just like, yeah, I've done this for like 30 years. But when you start to write with your non-dominant hand, which is actually, it's tough, and your writing is just going to be like a mess, but don't judge yourself. And especially connecting to your inner child with your non-dominant hand is really powerful, because your writing kind of looks like it was written by your inner child. And just basically ask questions like, what do I need in this moment? And what is something that I'm seeking from other people that I can give to myself? Or what is something that I'm seeking from other people that you, as my inner child, believe that I, the adult self, can give to you in this moment, you know? Because everything that we could ever want is already within us. I know that sounds so cheesy, but I think it's cheesy for a reason, because find yourself wanting to seek external validation and approval, that could be that part of you that just needs acceptance and love in that moment.
That's actually an amazing share there, you know, in terms of knowing yourself and also connecting to your intuition. And when you were sharing this, and I was listening to how I did things without knowing, right? So So obviously, you know, I've had my fair share of adversities, challenges, you know, you name it. I probably have gone through it, and coming back from a background of being a creative person, in terms of I was in bands and music and all that stuff. But every time, even though I was a confident musician, because I taught myself, so I was very confident in picking up music and pretty much copying whatever was happening. I can do that. But every time I was going to the stage, there'd be butterflies in my stomach, right? So and I would also feel a very shriveled, you know, shelled in small person, right? Like, you know, okay, I'm going on a stage, I don't know what will happen. So all the scenarios in my brain will start giving me thoughts of all the things that could go wrong now. This is one thing I used to like, but luckily that I was so aware of these things that I was always used to, when I used to come off the stage and everything, and I had time to contemplate and be with myself, where it was a reflection time, I used to take that as a reflection time, and I used to go through it, and I was like, okay, why was I getting all these thoughts? Because I was then allowing it to come to me, right? And oh, what if your
Absolutely.
guitar breaks down? What if your string goes here? What if the amp goes out? What if you slip? And actually, once I was there, I was actually not thinking of all that stuff. I was just thinking of being the happiest person on stage, doing what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
enjoy the moment. And yeah, that was the case. And let everything flow. Whatever came to my mind to do, I'll just do it, rather than thinking of, oh, look at this, that might break, and this might break. And but that was all before process. And then afterwards, I was like, none of that actually happened. It's not there.
Absolutely.
So I found that when I was, so it's again another cheesy code that I used to go by as well was, feel that fear and do it anyway, right? So you're feeling that fear. Now the fear, exactly what we were talking about earlier, and you mentioned, your brain likes to get you back into the comfort zone every time because it's familiar. It's familiar for it, right? And it's like, are you sure you want to do this? You want to go that way? Because it doesn't know what's there and what the outcome is.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, I use a Mac now, but back in the time when there was Windows laptop in my hand, and every time you're doing something and the Windows will always ping you every 5 minutes. Are you sure you want to do this? You want to delete this? You want to do this? You want to change this file? And I was like, of course, that's why I am doing it now, aren't I? So obviously that feature was good, that when you were making an error, that was good. But a lot of times that, it would just get on my nerves. I'm like, why are you asking me all this stuff? And then I thought of that, okay, but when it comes to us and your brain is doing the same thing, it's just prompting a response. Are you sure you want to do this? That's when you just want to reassure yourself, right? And also what I usually now say is, this is when you know how important that action that you're about to take is to you, because now you had a prompt from your brain. You sure you want to do this? Actually, what you're doing is good enough. So why you want to do this, right? This is not great. I don't think you're worthy of this. I don't think it will have an imposter syndrome that takes over and so forth, right? All that is just a prompt from your mind to check in with you. Are you ready? If you're ready, take that step. We just need to move forward. And that's what it is. So it's taking that fear, taking that prompt. That's how I like to put it. It's the big thing is to change the vocabulary that we are using as well with that, right? So we need to change the words so that it doesn't also trigger the mind of thinking of those thoughts. If it's a negative word, you need to change it into some neutral word. I'm not even saying to change it into a positive, because we can't be positive all the time. But we can think neutrally. If you're thinking neutrally, if it's neutral, now it's your choice to make it into a negative or a positive, right? So your choice. So neutral words are always amazing to use. And I love that you just brought that out in me, and I was just remembering all that. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I mean, that's also what EFT helps us with, right? So EFT calms the amygdala, and this is basically the part of your brain that if it's like overreactive, you aren't able to make decisions from a clear point of view, so this is when you make like rash decisions, or instead of respond, you just react, and then like 2 seconds later you're like, why did I say that? That's because your nervous system is kind of like going haywire. And so with EFT, you're delaying that response, so it's like if the same thing happens, instead of being quick, your nervous system is sort of like in a state of like relaxation, where it's like, okay, I don't have to yell right away. Like I can actually take a step back and just assess this entire thing and see, how do I really want to respond to the situation? And it, excuse me. And it also is very useful with yourself. So it's like when you're feeling something, it's easier for you to sort of take a step back, and instead of identifying with your thoughts or your emotions, you're able to become that observer, where you're like, okay, how do I want to respond to this? Like, how do I want to respond to this feeling, to these thoughts? Like, like you said, languaging is so important. So instead of saying things like, I am angry or I am sad, you can say like, okay, I'm feeling anger and I'm feeling sad, but it's not you, so it's not like I am this, I am feeling this.
I really love that as well. So thank you very much, Silkina, for
Thank
sharing all
you.
these. And we will be obviously wrapping this up because we're
Yeah.
reaching the nearest time as well. Just for everybody to know as well, obviously, because this Tuesday Talk went live on Instagram a bit earlier than its official time as well. Just
Yes.
because you're in Singapore and I'm all the way in UK.
I'm
So
in Jakarta.
this is oh, there you go. So
I was in
you know,
Singapore for
so
holiday.
oh, so you're relocated.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you are actually now. So
Yeah.
so and it's I love the way that also this technology allows us to do this,
Yeah.
and flexibility of the time that we are able to do this. So now before we wrap this episode up, which is such an amazing episode, I'm sure people were able to take away lots and lots of stuff. What would you like to leave the audience with, Silkina?
I would say, give yourself some tough love, I think, because that is what got me to where I am now, which is when you don't feel like doing the thing, chances are that's the thing that you need to do. And when I was going through my darkest period, I had this, I like to say, like message from my higher self and my guides. And it basically said the work that you're avoiding is the work that's going to set you free. So I remember typing that, at like 3 a.m. in the morning on my phone. And I was like, okay, like it's time for me to stop avoiding the thing that I know is going to get me to where I need to be. And I think everyone secretly knows what they need to do to get to the next level, but they're just not brave enough in that moment to take that responsibility because it's a huge decision, So I would say take responsibility for your own healing, and do the thing and be consistent and just keep going. Give yourself 365 days. Don't give yourself 90 days because then you'll probably give up after 90 days. Give yourself 1 year and just stick to one thing and just, your life will change.
I love that. I love that. And I think I will use one of the lines as the title for the episode. What was that? Give yourself enough time to heal. And
yeah, you would have to. I don't know. I don't know what I said.
Yeah,
it just came out.
No, exactly. I mean that's what I picked up from that as well, was give yourself enough time to heal, or take responsibility of your own healing. That's the one.
Yeah, take responsibility for yourself.
Yeah, take responsibility for your own healing. So love that.
Nobody's gonna
thank you very much.
you but you. Yeah. So
nobody's gonna
the
heal
key
you,
to life
okay.
is in your hands.
There you go.
The key to a good life. Yeah.
I love that. So thank you very much, Silkina, for
Thank
sharing
you.
your amazing journey.
You're
and
welcome.
people who are watching this live on Tuesday Talks now on Instagram, and listening to this as a podcast version, which will be in a few months' time. If you had a spark or an aha moment by listening to this episode, it's our duty now to share this with whomever just popped into your mind or you think should be actually listening to this. So tag them in the stories or share this episode with them, because it's our duty now to share the inspiration that we get from these things to others, because we don't know who's woken up or gone to bed thinking of a better day, and this might just give them that chance to start or make that decision to take their own responsibility of their own healing. Now, thank you very much, Silkina, for your time as well.
Thank you.
And everybody else, thank you. Bye.
Bye.